The events unfolded in the luxurious Changche Hotel, where a mysterious lady approached Chun Chun, asking if he remembered her words. The embarrassed son-in-law of the Song family decided to clarify what exactly this girl was saying. The girl was outraged, given that they had been married for 5 years, and warned that he would be in a dangerous situation at his birthday party today. This girl turned out to be Song Yin, also known as Miss Song Jiansan, and she was going to provide financial support for Chong Chun to leave Chongqing and go into hiding. The main character did not want to listen, and when his wife spoke, he instantly fell asleep, as he was extremely bored. At this time, the Song family's butler, Song Rahai, opened the car door for the girl and wished her to let her husband rest in the car for now. When the third daughter of the Song family was seen not far from the hotel, the paparazzi immediately began taking photos of her, considering her an incredible beauty. The paparazzi also spotted Chun Chun in the car and realized that he was Ms. Song Jiansan's husband, which everyone found surprising considering that he was the mysterious beauty had been married to this idiot for 5 years, like a flower growing in the wrong place. A strange pendant hung on the main character's neck, as if it had magical properties, making it unusual. At this time, there were shouts in the hotel that the Song family had not had it easy in the past 5 years. It turned out that it was the head of the Song family, Song Xianyang, who claimed that events were developing favorably and luck was. Even Zhang Yunghua noticed that due to luck, the Song family was able to rise from the dead in 5 years. Everyone knew that when the hour of darkness came, Chun Chin's luck would run out and their marriage would come to an end. The head of the family apologized to the girl for the past 5 years, assuring her that she would no longer have to be with this stupid guy. The girl tried to calm her father down, saying that there was no point in making a big deal out of a mountain, and suggested that he just let Chun Chin go. The entire city knew that Song had been married to a fool for 5 years, and today she had to end her marriage in front of the entire society. If their family contacts one of the largest families in Chongqing, they will become successful. At this time, Song felt uncomfortable, realizing that this was the senior enterprise master of the imperial court, known as Yi Shaohan. Suddenly, a young master from the imperial court appeared, very close to the hotel. This young man was the pride of the business community and the son of a distinguished family, also a handsome fellow. All the girls were delighted with him and could not understand why Song Jiansan did not marry Mr. Yi Shaohan. The confident guy immediately noticed the mysterious young man sleeping in the car and asked the manager who it was. The impudent guy was told that this was the son-in-law of the Song family, Chun Chun, who needed to be woken up since Yi Shaohan wanted to greet him. The servants approached the guy, trying to wake him up and taunting him, calling him an idiot. Despite their attempts, Chun Chun continued to sleep, showing no desire to wake up. The arrogant managers said that only pigs can sleep so soundly, and this fool is like a well-fed pig. The hero remained in the dark, calmly continuing to sleep in the car. With sympathy, Yi Shaohan began to leave, hoping to still talk to this fool. Suddenly, part of the protagonist's medallion flew in an unknown direction. Finding ourselves in the direction of the arrogant guy who dared to wake up Chun Chun. In a calm tone, the hero addressed himself from the car, introducing himself as Chun Chun. Then he asked how he could help young Master Yi Shaohan, showing his confidence. The unsuspecting, impudent man was surprised and did not foresee what awaited him next. The servants began to be indignant, asking the eccentric how he dared to throw something at the master. Yi Xiaohan guessed that Chong Chun had not spoken a word since he became a member of the Song family, causing them. Smiling with satisfaction, Yi Xiaohan announced that tonight the status of son-in-law of the Song family would come to an end, and his wife would become the. Smiling arrogantly, Yi Xiaohan asked whether the hero even understood what he was talking about, or whether he was stupid. The hero continued to remain silent, but the impudent man did not pay attention to this, after which he gradually began to leave. Suddenly the guy asked if they really thought he was a fool. 5 years ago, he mastered the art of magic with the hope of glory, but did not take into account that while studying the soul suppressor, he would go out of control. As a result of an accident, Song Yin was hit by a car, and he joined the Song family, where he lived for 5 years. After 5 years of humiliation, he is abandoned and becomes the object of ridicule for the entire city, despite the fact that everyone has long wanted to expel him. Song Yin seems to be the only one who does not want to reject him. She protected him from all difficulties and from her own family. He got a good wife for a reason. She silently protected him for 5 years. Now it was Chun Chin's time to protect his own wife. While getting out of the car, someone addressed him, calling him a stupid son-in-law. Today he should become the most important star. It was Song Qingpeng, Song Yan's cousin, who said that they were looking for Chong Chan everywhere, considering him a dunce with a pitiful face. The guy looked at this impudent guy with an angry look. For 5 years, no one from the Song family took him seriously, and Qingpeng secretly inflicted. Relations did not improve, and Qingpeng spat into a glass of wine, ready to hand it over to his son-in-law as an apology. This glass was supposed to be a reward for a hero, and Qingpeng had no intention of hitting it today. The hero asked in surprise if he could drink this wine, and the cheeky one confirmed that the guy could safely do this. The guy began to bring the glass to his mouth, not suspecting that everyone was dying of laughter, and Song Qingpeng could not understand why he had not thought of this funny way of humiliation earlier. Unable to bear the bullying, Chong Chun ordered Qingpeng to go lower if he wanted to drink the wine. Taking him by the throat, the self-confident guy poured wine down his throat, mocking and humiliating him in front of the guests. The guests were dumbfounded. How did this fool manage to defeat one of the influential family members? Continuing to mock him, the hero threw Qingpeng to the floor, asking if he found pleasure in wine. The trembling guests could not understand how this happened, and how an idiot could defeat such a strong opponent. Song Qingpeng could not bear such humiliation, losing face in front of many famous guests. In desperation, he pulled a knife from his back pocket, expressing his desire to see the hero dead and declaring that he was now a corpse. Suddenly, someone stopped the impudent man, just a second before he was about to use the knife. The man asked if Song Qingpeng was really going to commit murder with so many powerful individuals in the city, and if he wanted to. This man turned out to be the butler Song, to whom the impudent man told that the guy publicly humiliated him. The skillful butler persuaded the guy not to commit this act in front of others, suggesting that he meet with the master immediately, and revenge on. Qingpeng left, apologizing to the guy, and the butler agreed, believing that this was a more prudent. Then the man turned to the hero, saying that the master wanted to see him too, and offered to go together to his office. The embittered youth thought that Chun Chun was lucky today, but they would still clash in the future. While the family servant led Chun into the study, telling him to come in. Family members were sitting in the office, and the head of the family invited Chun to sit at the table. The boy sadly realized that for 5 years he had been forced to stand in the corner and listen to family meetings, and he could not believe that he was the head of the family. Immediately got down to business. During these 5 years, the Song family rose from the dead thanks to Chun, but Taoist Master Zhang warned them. The master said that Chun's luck would end today, and therefore they should be separated from Song Yin immediately, so that the hero would not influence them negatively. Meanwhile, Lin Xinping tried to calm the hero down, saying that it was time to... The second son-in-law of the Song family, Zhou Jian, even suggested that Chun was unable to even hold a... Looking at the document, the hero realized that they were really going to abandon him, and he did not care what these scum thought. He only cared about Song Yin, because she was the only one who treated him well these past 5 years. Listening to all the insults directed at her husband, the girl could no longer stand it and shouted that the guy didn't care, and they just said they wouldn't do it again to be polite. With a smile on his face, the hero looked at his wife and realized that if she refused to sign the divorce agreement, then he would not either. If she does sign, he won't stay here for a minute. Meanwhile, the butler approached the master and said that the young master of Yinqing had expressed a desire to discuss possible cooperation, and the man was delighted and wondered whether. However, the young master has a request, and when negotiating, he needs to meet with the most famous son-in-law of. As a result, one of them left, saying that now they had to return with victory, and the master should not. Song Qiu, the only son of Song Xieyang, asked his mother about the family his father was talking about. Currently, the Xia family had arrived in Chongqing City, and they had many people willing to cooperate, and by getting close to the Xia family, one could fly to the top. Su Yuxian addressed her daughter, saying that her elder sister's husband was receiving excellent resources, and now it was up to her how she would fight. All this time, Chun listened carefully to the dialogue and understood that nothing good should be expected from the Song family, since they were willing to sell their daughter. Suddenly, there was a cry from outside the door that Mr. Xia really did not have a son-in-law who openly beat people. The gentleman immediately discovered his son-in-law, who had beaten the man in public. Those present were dumbfounded, because no one expected to see this man here. The mother was confused and asked everyone to stand up as a distinguished guest had arrived. Su Yuxian suggested that Mr. Xia was looking for a second son-in-law, and the guy introduced himself, but everyone was at a loss whether it was possible that Zhou Jian. This turned out not to be the case, and Mr. Xia pushed the second son-in-law away, ordering him to leave. Approaching Chun, Mr. Xia said that he saw him beating a man in the hall. After introducing himself, he said that his name was Xia Bei and expressed his admiration for Chun. Everyone was shocked and confused, not understanding what was happening. The friendly hero agreed, saying that he had nothing planned tomorrow. After shaking hands, Xia Bei and Chun agreed to meet tomorrow. The head of the family could not understand how this happened, and the mother explained that this guy turned out to be the very son-in-law whom Mr. Xia wanted to meet. However, no one could understand why this happened, because everyone viewed this guy as an ordinary fool. Soon the family began discussing what had happened, as everyone sought to understand what the mysterious event was. Some family members learned that Mr. Xia saw Chongchen beating Song Qingpeng in the hall, and he thought it was funny to meet such a fool. Meanwhile, the head of the family realized that if Chongchen was so stupid that he could offend Xia Bei tomorrow, their 5-year fortune would turn. Therefore, this event became even more outrageous for him. Putting a lot of pressure on his daughter, the father tried to get her to sign a divorce contract, but the girl refused to do so. Mother also insisted on signing the agreement, arguing that if they ended the marriage, the Song family would get rid of Chun, and even if the Xia family got angry, they would have less chance of being. All the relatives persistently persuaded the girl, arguing that she should think about her family, not herself, and she should sign a divorce, since they were doing it for her own. With shaking hands, the anxious Song Yin realized that Chun had dedicated 5 years to his family, and now she was going to be abandoned in this way. With sadness in his heart, the hero realized that his wife probably chose the family over him. Suddenly, the girl began to press the handle directly on the contract with full force, thereby spoiling it and refusing to sign it. After that, scattering all the documents on the table, she shouted that 5 years had passed, and it was thanks to Chun. Listening to Song Yan's outrage, the entire family was angry with her, everyone trying to get her to sign the contract. Even the father shouted at his daughter, demanding that she do it. But the girl began to cry, saying that she did not like Yi Xiaohan, especially since she did not want to become an instrument in their marriage. Alarmed relatives began to discuss how to influence the girl's decision, wondering what they could say to her. Hitting the table with full force, the father began to shout that Song Yin was a rebel, and today she must sign this agreement to end the marriage. At this time, someone began to break this particular agreement to end the marriage. It was Chun who asked if father really couldn't see that Song Yin didn't want this. The angry family began to shout at the hero, wondering how he dared to break the divorce agreement, considering it outrageous. The guy responded by saying that he understands the importance of cooperation with the Xia family, but as they see, Mr. Xia only wants to negotiate with him. Therefore, he hopes that they will respect Song Yan's opinion, otherwise, he will tell everything to Mr. Xia tomorrow. This will cause their discontent, as the most influential family in the city will find out all the family secrets. In case of trouble, he would take all the blame on himself without dragging the Song family into it, and the head of the family meanwhile could not understand why this fool suddenly began. One of the children started screaming, asking Chun who he was, that if something bad happened tomorrow, at that very second, someone announced that they would solve this issue. It turned out that it was Mr. Yi Xiaohang, who assured that there was no need to worry, and even if Chong Chen attracted Mr. Xia's attention tomorrow, he could. After 5 minutes, the family was discussing that the father of the family had promised to meet with Mr. Xia, since there was nothing else they could do in this situation. It was Mr. Yi Xiaohan's will, and his family had long ago agreed to cooperate with the Xia family in the upcoming meeting, and the defiant Yi Xiaohan suggested that the girl give Chun Chen a day's time and let them compete fairly, and he noticed that Lady Song was still hesitating. Why not act? The father of the family decided that he wanted Chong Chun to lose convincingly to demonstrate Yi. However, just in case, the head of the family asked the butler to make sure that someone sent Chun Chun back to his normal state. The girl in love thanked her husband for saving her and reflected on how he stopped being a fool and took the whole blow upon himself. Smiling proudly, the hero realized that he owed it to his wife, and he did it. Meanwhile, the butler informed the lady that it was already late, and it was time to go home. Chun Chen also needed to go home and rest. The butler was tasked with taking care of the hero. While in the women's restroom, the girls were discussing how the idiot son-in-law beat up Song Qingpeng. They also knew that Song Qingpeng tried to retaliate, but the butler stopped him decently, and they were sorry that they had to miss such a sight. However, this was not a great loss for them, because they saw Song Qingpeng gathering a group of people to take revenge, and Song Yin heard their realizing the danger to her husband, Song Yin began calling the butler, asking him to save Chun Chun. The butler, meanwhile, left the building, preparing something terrible for the main character. The man told the lady that they were just heading to the parking lot and did not understand why she was so worried about her husband. The worried girl explained that she heard how the butler stopped Song Chingpeng from beating Chun Chen today, but she was afraid that Song would now try to take revenge. Without hesitation, the man simply replied that the lady should not worry, because her husband was with him, and he will ensure his safe return home, because after all, they are relatives. As it turned out, the butler had been disingenuous all this time, and the guys were already waiting nearby, ready to attack the hero. The wife, in turn, expressed gratitude to the butler, considering him an excellent worker, after which they said goodbye. The impudent man then told Song Chingpeng that he had specially arranged the opportunity for revenge. The insolent man asked the man to leave the parking lot, and the butler immediately began to walk away. Under the direction of the head, he was allowed to use any methods to eliminate Chun Chen, and this was truly outstanding. As a precaution, the head wanted to be 100% sure that Chun Chen would not meet Xia tomorrow. The hooligans were already waiting for him. They were angry, and they had many types of weapons in their hands, as they intended. Song Chingpeng was furious that Chong Chen humiliated him in public today. Swinging the metal pipe with full force, he shouted that he would prove to the guy that he could no longer neglect him. At first, the hero was very confused, not knowing what to do in this situation and how to escape. Meanwhile, the butler stood at the entrance to the underground parking lot, and loud bangs were heard, as if someone was fighting. Suddenly, the butler looked through the door and shouted to the guys not to break their legs and ruin their faces, and they might still need that face to work later. After waiting a few seconds, the man noticed that the parking lot had become very quiet, and it didn't look like there was a fight going on. The stunned butler saw Chun Chen standing over the bullies, unharmed, as if the fight had never happened. This turn of events greatly surprised the experienced butler because he had never seen something like this before. Sometime later, the hero reflected that for the first time since descending from the mountain, he used the skills. At the same time, he was sorry that he had to deal with such scum. Suddenly, someone behind them exclaimed, asking Manager Pan if the fun would continue. The fun was apparently about to continue, as many more scoundrels came, who were promised an interesting spectacle, and their task was to beat up the son-in-law so that Yi Xiaohong. None of those present immediately understood who these people were, and only Chun Chen realized that his life was again in danger. The brave guy asked the rough losers why they were here and what they wanted. Without hesitation, he demanded an apology for his impudent actions and waited for all the bullies to apologize. The karateka immediately began to refuse to apologize to the idiot, but the guy behind him stopped him, remembering who it was. They all laughed, realizing that in front of them was an ordinary person, unable to resist or fight them. Coming closer, the scoundrel asked Chun Chen if he was aware that he would be beaten today and his girlfriend would no longer sleep alone. The hero could not tolerate such impudence and forcefully hit the impudent guy right in the face to bring him to his senses. However, he warned this impudent person earlier, telling him that before speaking, he needed to apologize. None of the hooligans present could believe that such a weakling could defeat their leader with just one blow. Even the group leader was amazed and did not understand how this son-in-law dared to hit. Fury flashed in his eyes, and the leader was ready to finish off the hero for such humiliation. The managers realized that it was all over and this fool would decide to hit Rongdong, the young master of the Rong group, one of the most lowly groups in the city, and the young master also owned a boxing gym. Therefore, The young master immediately wanted to put an end to the hero for such a shameful act. The hooligans began to shout, expressing their support for the boss and urging him to show off his boxing skills. The hero didn't even worry about such a weak blow. He just watched as the impudent guy tried to hit him. As a result, the hero powerfully kicked straight into young Master Rong's sensitive spot, causing him to scream in pain. This unusual blow shocked those present, since no one had previously dared to use such methods. The young master expressed his anger to his assistants because they refused to help him, preferring only to watch him lose in a duel. Experiencing rage and pain, the main bully ordered an attack on his son-in-law in order to disfigure him. He even expressed his intention to see him dead, calling on his accomplices to kill him without mercy. At this time, events were happening in the parking lot, and the butler turned to Song Qingpeng. The incomprehensible man tried to find out what happened and who beat them like that. The villain revealed that Chun Chen was the one who initiated the incident, and the butler decided to clarify the details, but no one could explain how they could have been defeated. All those present remembered only that they attacked Chun Chen, and then a complete defeat followed. At some point, Chun Chen used dark magic called Qinkuan. Chun Chen successfully used the shifting technique, causing Rong's minions to attack each other. Hearing the sounds of fighting in the distance, the butler and Song Qingpeng thought that a new conflict had just begun. Rong's henchmen, misled by Chun Chen's technique, began to attack their leader, not realizing why they avoided attacking Chun Chen. With the force of a hero, he stepped on the back of the main villain, demonstrating his dominant position. The determined guy warned that the scoundrel should not approach, otherwise his boss might pay for his actions. The main scoundrel screamed, declaring that he was the young master of the Rong family, and if he was not respected, strict measures would follow. Despite Rong's status, the hero insisted that the young master apologize to him and his wife, threatening the young master with serious consequences. Master Rong was amazed at what was happening, and the territory belonged to Master Yi Shaohan, and Chong Chan won the fight, despite being surrounded by his men. Realizing his helplessness, Rong realized that he had come to observe, but found himself humiliated and unable. The hero continued to put pressure on the scoundrel's back, forcing Rong to apologize to Lady Song Yin under the threat of even greater pain. Bursting into tears, the scoundrel begged for forgiveness, claiming that he sincerely repented and would not commit such acts again. None of Rong's henchmen could believe what was happening, because it had never happened before that their boss apologized to anyone. The satisfied hero expressed joy, noting that it was high time to receive an apology from him and his wife, and then, perhaps, this fight would have been avoided. The managers continued to watch, realizing that now all relationships were destroyed, and the events of that day would long remain in the memory. Suddenly, the head of the family said Chun Chen's name. The father was furious, because he ordered the guy to go home, and now he did not understand what he was doing here. Yi Shaohan walked up to the manager, wondering what happened. The concerned manager said that Rong asked about Chun Chen, after which the guy beat Rong Dong without a word. The young master couldn't understand how this happened and wondered if there could be some kind of protective force for Chun Chen in the Song family. While Yi Shaohan wanted to know from Mr. Song how important family was to him. He knew that at the moment, three-way cooperation was the most important thing for their family, and without the Yi family, this cooperation would become with another family. Another family is the Rong group, who had just suffered from an encounter with Chun. Now their son-in-law is making a fuss, and Yi Xiaohan is afraid that the Rong family will no longer want to cooperate with them, and the father. Right now, when his luck had run out, this guy began to bother the Song family. The troubled head of the Song family apologizes on behalf of his family and is willing to pay compensation if necessary. One of the Rong family members immediately turns around and declares that he no longer wants to deal with the Song family after today's incident. Rong doesn't care who protects Chun. If he returns home unharmed, Rong plans to change his name. He exclaims this with confidence, believing that such a change is simply impossible. The girl watching what was happening couldn't figure out what Chun did to Rong Dong, and previously she thought that the guy would just go home, and now the gloating Yi Xiaohan at this time was thinking that now that Chong Qian had lost his support. Immediately after this, the scoundrel turned to the beaten guy, claiming that they were partners and there was no need to spoil the relationship over. Addressing the head of the family, the guy noted that the birthday party had become too noisy, so he should return home first, and as for who to take, the father of the Xiang family began to worry, but he understood the master, as if everything had become clear. The man announced to everyone that everything was in order and it was time to go, although there was not enough space in the. As a result, Chun was forced to take a taxi because there was no free space in the car. Song Yin was outraged by this decision, because the father simply replied that he did not understand his daughter's concerns, because he was only letting the guy go. If Chun arrives safely at the meeting place, the gentleman will personally meet him and arrange a reception. One of the sons-in-law realized that without Mr. Chun's kindness he would not have survived, and Song Yin trembled with fearing. The scoundrel observed the incident and listened to the entire dialogue, which made him surprised by the Song family's frankness, and thus he agreed to continue the three-way cooperation. Yi Xiaohan was pleased with this decision, because tomorrow he was going to visit the Song family and take Miss Song Yin with him to the Xia family to discuss. The mother said goodbye to Chun, saying that it was time to go home, and this might be their last meeting. Perhaps the last success was to persuade Mr. Yi to finish everything quickly, while his relatives mocked the guy, calling him a loser. Lady Song Yin continued to listen to this boorish attack from her relatives and trembled with anger, rage. Taking Chun's hand, she declared that they needed to leave. Until they signed the divorce agreement, they were still bound by circumstances, and the girl did not want her. The head of the family could not tolerate such behavior and expressed his indignation to Yi Xiaohan, but the guy, after all, he just likes to watch his prey resist until it becomes his. Sometime later, Chun and Song Yin went home. Their younger brother was driving them in a car, explaining that it was not his decision, but Dad asked to protect Song Yin, and she must understand why all these events. With regret, the girl realized that Chun had angered Rong Dong, and his men were probably already in pursuit of the hero. The indignant younger brother decided to ask the guy why he got involved in this conflict, and after all, everyone had ridiculed him. Ignoring the possible consequences, the hero simply replied that the guy he beat deserved a lesson for his inappropriate statements. At that time, the brother understood that having influence in society is strength, and being smart, strong, but useless is useless, and these three qualities are. The concerned wife, in turn, said that she would soon take Chun out of the city. From that moment on, the guy should have been as honest as possible with her, but suddenly several cars began to pursue. In the blink of an eye, one of the cars in pursuit crashed into the rear bumper of their car. Panic began in the car, the driver was furious, and the girl did not understand what had happened, and Chun remained calm. The girl asked her younger brother to stop the persecution, as they needed to leave the city. Suddenly, Chun said that there was no need to leave and asked Song Chio to let him out of the car. The guy explained that while he was inside the car, these guys were a danger to him, and he could only be safe when he got out of the car and attracted their attention. The wife was against this idea, believing that Chun had gone crazy and these people would kill him as soon as he came out. This was immediately followed by another strong impact from behind, forcing the car to veer off the road. The car almost started moving along the forest road due to impacts that made it difficult to move on the asphalt. Fortunately, the younger brother listened to Chun and let him out of the car, and the hero asked him to protect his sister, Song Chio. All this time, the girl continued to shout at Chun to get back into the car, and at the last moment the guy said that it was necessary to demand Many cars arrived at the forest glade to catch up with Chun and take revenge on him for his actions. The pursuers immediately noticed that this guy decided to leave his wife and run away. A large number of hooligans were preparing to attack Chun and finish what they started in order to present him to the boss. The beaten criminal decided to kill him himself, so he ordered his allies to bring Chun to him. The arrogant scoundrel said that he had already given the Song family a chance 3 times for her benefit, and now the master's patience has run out, and now he wishes not only that she would become his tonight, but also that Chun could not get out of here alive. It turns out that the younger brother had been watching what was happening all this time, and was aware that 2 grown men were threatening his sister, and this should have caused him deep. The guy also realized that he was a real macho man, and he needed to do something to help his sister, despite his fear. Suddenly, someone behind him turned to the guy, asking if he would continue to watch his sister being bullied. It was Chun. The younger brother was surprised, because this guy had previously been chased by a whole crowd, and the hero replied that they decided to get down to business, and the guy asked his brother why he, being a member of the Rong group, did not use his power. The trembling guy admitted that he wanted to go, but he was afraid that it would make the Song family enemies of the Yi and Rong families, so he couldn't even move his legs. The brave hero called him a failure, since he is not even able to protect his own sister. As Chun continued walking, he asked Song Chio to remember his words. Greatly alarmed, Song Yin realized that these scoundrels were pursuing her husband. Realizing that it was necessary to somehow prevent the beating of the guy, the girl decided to get out of the car to communicate with the gang bosses, and however, her brother. Therefore, she ordered her younger brother to save Chun while she herself went to talk to Yi Shaohan before it was too late. If anything happened to Chun, she said that she would disown her younger brother for the rest of her life. Realizing that his brother did not want this, he went out to save his husband. At this time, Song Yin turned to Yi Shaohan, asking what needs to be done to make him spare her husband. Suddenly, Rong Dong and Yi Shaohan approached and reminded that the breakup of a marriage could be confirmed by fingerprints. Today, Rong was going to kill Chun and use his fingerprints for a divorce, and yet if Song Yin agreed to marry his brother, Song Yin realized the unfairness of the situation as they were trying to take advantage of the opportunity, which was against the rules and unacceptable. Suddenly, Yi Shaohan came closer and ordered Yin to shut up. Then the main character expressed the idea that if someone dares to offend the one you love, the response should be the same. The villains instantly discovered the guy and were glad that this fool was heading towards his destiny. Even if you have to endure the pain and start all over again, it is still worth it to protect those you love and the people close. As a man, it is important to behave like a real man and strike the first blow to your offender. Song Yin was shocked and couldn't understand whether her husband was really capable of defeating such strong opponents. In fact, he was able to do this by hitting the villain hard right in the stomach, and from the blow he howled in pain. For the blow was, after such a blow, the scoundrel will hardly be able to continue the fight, for he barely survived this first blow, experiencing severe pain. Those present could not believe their eyes, because previously everyone considered Chun Chun to be just a fool, incapable. In fact, this guy was so strong that he easily defeated one of the strongest fighters, namely Rongdong. Meeting Yi Xiaohan's gaze, Chong Chun declared that it was now his turn to fight. Suddenly, at the same moment, the villain began to laugh, claiming that the hero, in his opinion, had gone. The insolent one believed that Chun Chun was being dishonest despite the Song family's efforts to pacify the Rong group. Everyone knew that the Song family would only prosper by equating its status with the Yi family, and now he had finally angered the Rong group. Now his family will have to turn to Yi Xiaohan for help, and the hero should not dare to confront him in battle. Yi Xiaohan invited the guy to kneel down, break off his marriage with Song Yin, and only then did he promise that the Rong group would spare him. The main character didn't care, and he hit the villain forcefully in the face, using one of the most powerful striking techniques. He did it because the chatty guy talked too much. After the powerful blow, Yi Xiaohan immediately began to fall, no longer able to speak calmly. All this was quite fair, according to Chun Chun, who believed that garbage should know its place. Yi Xiaohan seemed to have lost consciousness, so he should have been taken home, and the hero was thinking about throwing him straight into the trash can. The scoundrel shouted in a trembling voice, threatening Chun Chun that he should think about it, otherwise the consequences would be irreversible. Chun Chun only ordered the impudent man to shut up and forcefully hit his head against the trash can. From a strong blow, Yi Xiaohan instantly lost consciousness, as he was an extremely weak opponent and could not resist adequately. Like a cockroach, Yi Xiaohan lay unconscious among the garbage, his true place. The hero was extremely pleased that the scoundrel had finally fallen silent. Placing his foot directly on the trash can, he tried to see where his allies were. Concerned, Song Yin approached her husband and reproached him for not listening to her requests not to get into a fight, and now, in fact, everything could have been settled without a fight. Simply causing one-sided damage, the hero took out a wad of cash from Yi Xiaohan's pocket and handed it to his wife. The girl again could not believe her eyes, and after all, during the 5 years of marriage, she saw for the first time how he knew how to. Realizing that they should get out, the girl took her husband's hand again, telling them to leave the place, and Chun Chun realized that Song Chio was still paralyzed and out of the blue, Song Chio emerged from the ambush, declaring that it was time to leave. Thus, all the enemies were easily defeated, and the heroes, safe and sound, left this place. Leaving along the road, it was clear to them that they would soon leave this city. The slightly worried girl still asked the guy to be more careful, but Chun Chun assured her that there was nothing to worry about. Suddenly, Song Chio turned around and shouted, accusing Chong Chun of being mad and warning that the Song family would not be able to protect him. Song Yin also supported her brother in this matter. The smart guy realized that if he beat the scoundrel, he probably wouldn't tell anyone about it. This was reality, since it is not profitable for the bandits to spread information that they were beat. Therefore, the hero is sure that this shameful story will die with them, and as for their comrades, they should also remain silent, because Chun will still have one more day. Even if the hero goes out of town, he intends to return, because tomorrow he and Mr. Xia have a meeting planned at the song. Chun was not worried about the incident, as he had no intention of violating the agreement. After Song Chio heard this guy's story, he decided it was time to return home. The hero said that he would return even if he was kicked out, and therefore it was better to return home right now. From that moment on, the younger brother decided to also protect Chun Chin. Meanwhile, the hero realized that he didn't even need this guy's protection, since he was able to protect himself. Either way, it's time to go home, but first we need to call Dad so he knows they're okay. Sometime later, events unfolded in the Song mansion. It turned out that the head of the family elder was complaining that Chun Chun had done terrible things. Over the past 5 years, they have relied on Chun Chin's luck to make him the head of the family, but the elder believes that today he has caused a lot of trouble, and the Song ladies were also against this decision, realizing that if they allowed this to happen, it would lead to the end, and the family's second uncle's business was booming. Even his son-in-law understood that he would have to be the one who gets the worst, and Chun Chun put himself in such an unpleasant situation. Suddenly, the head of the family asked to remain calm, and fortunately, Yi Xiaohan helped resolve the conflict and calm the Rong group. The girls were very happy, as they believed that Chun Chin's life was truly valuable. They were reassured by the knowledge that the more painful his death, the better for the Rong group. Song Yin then called the head of the family and told them that they had returned safely with Chun Chun. Hearing this, the man could not believe his daughter's words, as it seemed literally impossible. There was fear and horror in his voice, for he understood that if his son-in-law was not dead, then his family could be in danger. Realizing the complexity of the situation, the father threw his phone, and one of the daughters tried to find out what happened. The car in which the main character was finally arrived. After an intense fight in the forest, the proud young man returned home with his beloved. The relatives were amazed at what was happening, not expecting to see Chun Chin alive and unharmed. Even Song Chio, upon receiving a call from his father, felt a slight tingling on his back, worried about the Suddenly, the younger brother remembered his father's words earlier. He said that his father had promised to come out and arrange a grand return if Chun Chun reached the meeting place safely. The stunned young man realized that Chin remembered this promise and asked in advance to call his father to inform him. It was the younger brother who took it upon himself to tell his father that Chun Chin had returned safe and sound, demanding agreement. Understanding the danger, the younger brother realized that now difficulties awaited him too. Song Yin decided to ask her brother what happened, but at the same time, someone came out of the door of the mansion. The entire Xiang family had gathered. The head of the family especially stood out, because he was to meet Chun Chun. Containing his anger, the man greeted his son-in-law and invited him home. The children carefully watched their father's expression, feeling that today they had not escaped punishment. Smiling and presenting himself as a decent person, the hero asked if everything was okay and if he did the right thing. The hero could not understand why everyone was looking at him so strangely, while his wife understood that the second son-in-law was also present, and Chun Chun did not hesitate to ask him about tea. Everyone thought that Chun Chun was aiming for heaven, and not only was his father-in-law personal, then they remembered that the elder sister's husband had promised to pour tea for Chun Chun if he returned, and it was the same husband who had, after some time, the eldest son-in-law actually served tea to the main character. Politely handing over the tea, the young man seemed to treat the head with respect. Song Chio and Song Yin couldn't believe that the eldest son-in-law kept his promise. The son-in-law understood that if his father personally greeted Chun Chun, then he had no reason not to serve him tea. Everyone immediately attacked the younger brother, saying that he should have protected Yin, not her husband. Song Chio then explained that he was not to blame for anything, and in general, it was Chong Chun who dealt with the wrong group himself and returned. Suddenly, Song Yin came to the defense of her younger brother, realizing that it was difficult to believe that Chun. With a thump on the table and an expression of anger, the head of the family could not believe these words, considering them to be nonsense, and the younger brother was facing punishment with a whip, but he knew that the others did not know that Yi Shaohan had been beaten. The butler brought a whip to punish his younger brother. The head of the family took out an ancient weapon, preparing to punish the young man. Waving his whip, the angry father shouted that today he would teach his youngest son a lesson. Suddenly, Chun Chun paused his father's decisive gesture, not wanting the innocent boy to become a victim of punishment. Holding the hand of the head of the family, Chun Chun turned to his father, pointing out that even an evil tiger does not attack its. This only angered the family further as the mother explained that this was just a standard family punishment provided by law. Brothers-in-law did not have to deal with breaking family rules, and Chun Chun essentially offered his death, which was seen. Everyone began to calm Chun Chun down, explaining that it was just a spanking, nothing unusual. The head of the family was furious at this unexpected development of events, and even more, swinging his whip, the villain planned to strike, but not his youngest son. This blow was intended for Chun Chun, but Song Yin stood in front of the guy, since he dared to break family. The next moment the hero jumped with force, taking his wife with him. Because of such a deft movement, the head of the family, wielding the whip, missed with his strong. After the blow of the whip, many needles hidden on the weapon itself scattered. This turn of events surprised even the head of the family, because he did not imagine that his hand was holding such a dangerous. Defending his wife, Chun Chun expressed doubts whether this was really an attempt to beat Song Chio to death, because none of those present could believe their eyes, and they had never seen such a use of an ordinary whip before. Even the youngest son wondered if his father had just intended to kill him, unless there was another way to explain so many needles on the whip. The father, not understanding anything, could not guess what had happened, since he really. The head of the family immediately glanced at the butler, since the whip belonged to him, but the scoundrel immediately began to put pressure on the butler, because he tried to blame the head of the son-in-law. At this time assumed that something was wrong and reported this to his father. Everyone found it strange that only one person noticed the needles, and perhaps it was he who hid the hero not only noticed the presence of needles in the whip, but also discovered that they were covered with poison. Even the father himself could not know about the poison on the needles, and was amazed that this man, who seemed the eldest brother-in-law, began to shout at Chong Chun, claiming that he was crazy and doubting that anyone would dare to kill Song Chio right in front of their eyes. The daughter and mother began to cry, denying that they could cause harm. The head of the family decided to end the dispute, arguing that even if this was not true, it was better. He decided to show the whip to Master Qingfeng, a disciple of Taoist Jan, so that he could determine whether the needles were poisonous. A few minutes later, the butler confirmed that there was indeed poison on the needles and that it posed a serious threat. This meant that someone was truly seeking to harm the youngest son, and the relatives were outraged and suggested that Chong Chun could see the needles but not the poison. So he might have been involved, perhaps seeking to get rid of Song Chio. Listening to this, Song Yin could no longer bear it, and trembled with anger as she wanted to express all her hatred to her relatives. Meanwhile, the hero did not react at all to what was happening, calmly drinking hot tea. Suddenly, the head of the family shouted that arguing was enough, and the relatives were surprised by such a statement. They did not understand who could now be involved in the murder attempt. It turned out that the father was protecting Chun Chun, because if he had not told the truth, Song Chio would without hesitation, the father ordered the whole family to disperse. Chun Chun thanked his father for protecting him and for trusting him. When all the relatives began to leave, Song Chio turned to his son-in-law. The youngest son fell to his knees, apologizing and thanking his savior, expressing gratitude for the noble deed. With tears in his eyes, Song Chio expressed his gratitude for saving his life and apologized. The good-natured guy excused him and emphasized that they were relatives. Sometime later, Song Chio was asked if he was angry with his father for what happened. Song Chio explained that everything was fine, and he understood that someone was trying to harm him. The father, in turn, admitted his guilt, but asked his youngest son an important question. He wanted to know why Chun Chun had returned given the strength of the Rome group, and the guy had to tell the truth. The question surprised the son a little, since the answer to it could shock his father, and so he decided to first check with the head of the caring younger son asked if his father had high blood pressure, or if there were any signs of a heart attack. The angry father screamed that he had never experienced anything like this and demanded that his son tell him what. A few tens of minutes later, Song Chio told his father the whole truth and even mentioned that he could have saved. The guy also said that Yi Xiaohan did not take him seriously, and instead of talking, he hit him. He then took a real trash can and swung it at Yi Xiaohan's head, which made his father very angry. Later, the younger son said that after such a strong blow, Yi Xiaohan completely passed out, and the fight was truly amazing. The question of whether Yi Xiaohan had really been beaten echoed throughout the house. Upon learning of this, the mother began to cry, declaring that everything was coming to an end, and they had completely insulted this family. And now, the offended mother also decided to prepare a new divorce agreement before the morning, and Song Yin she would just. Meanwhile, Chun Chun turned to his wife, comforting her and telling her that this was just a three-way cooperation. He is confident that he can reach an agreement with the Xia family tomorrow, which is much better than the bad cooperation with the Yi family and the. A caring wife wanted to find out from her husband whether he had really recovered, and during the evening his behavior. This is truly a recovery, because in the last 5 years the hero feels great for the first time. And his wife asked. After thinking, the guy realized that it was difficult for him to answer this question, and it was difficult for him to. The girl reassures him, saying that there is no need to worry about it now, and everything is fine, and although, in fact, she thinks that if she knew where. Suddenly, Chun Chun announced that he had finally remembered where his home was. It turned out that his family, the Chu family, is a great one in China, with 9 masters, each of whom is amazing. All of these masters have omnipotent power in heaven and earth, and they even taught him the arts of combat. Without thinking for a long time, she decided to postpone this conversation and asked to talk about his experiences over the past 5 years. Realizing that Chun Chun had not been able to express his feelings for 5 years, she realized that he was probably enduring humiliation, pain, and indifference. Suddenly, Chun Chun exclaimed that even though they are husband and wife, she still needs to. Embarrassed, Song Yin began to get angry and sent her husband away, denying the accusations against her, and in response, Chun Chun explained that he was. With a huge lump on his head, the guy decided that it was time for him to go to bed, and the girl at that time considered him impudent because he took her and insulted her. The next morning, Song Chio was training in martial arts. A mysterious guy in an unusual suit watched him while brushing his teeth. It turned out to be Chun Chun, who wanted to ask Song Chio what inspired him to do the lion dance. The younger brother provided services to the family by training here. There will be a ceremony in Chongqing in 5 days, and if he can win the lion dance, he will solve the problem of the family's over-reliance on tripart. Not understanding how the lion dance can help, Song Chio asks his brother while continuing to brush his teeth. The ceremony in Chapcheong is the 80th birthday of the head of the Huang family, the most powerful in the city, even more powerful than the Yi family. Victory will win the recognition of the head of Huan, which will be a step towards success for the whole family. Despite the high competition, Song Chio doubts his. Chun Shin wondered if he should help his little brother while continuing to brush his teeth. Without thinking twice, the guy spat out the toothpaste with full force. This spit tore apart a balloon hanging not far from them. Such a trick greatly amazed Song Chio, and he even came up with the idea that his son-in-law might have been a shooter in a past life. But Chong Chun did not reveal. All this time, Chun Chun was thinking that he was his wife's subject, and victory would bring many benefits. Soon the decorations for the house were ready, and everyone was dressed up in festive costumes. The head of the family was preparing for the arrival of Yi Shaohan, because they were supposed to greet him at the highest level. At this time, one of the daughters ran up and turned to her father. It was Song Yin, and she wanted to understand why her father called her here. The parents didn't understand what kind of outfit their daughter was wearing, and she should be ashamed of such an image, and after all, she was told yesterday. Suddenly someone behind said that this was not necessary. It was Chun Chun who said that Mr. Yi Shaohang would not come today, and the only one who would come was Mr. Xia. Su Xiang began to shout at the guy, considering him restless because of the strange suit, and ordered him to which Chun Chun replied that Mr. Yi is coming, and he does not approve of all this boring ceremonial luxury that they are organizing here. The eldest son-in-law also asked Chun Chun not to mislead him. He explained that Mr. Yi is a man of his word in the business world, and if he said he would come. Moreover, he added that Mr. Xia could not come due to the poison needle incidents yesterday, and therefore Chun Chun should sign the divorce agreement and leave. Song Yin, trembling with hatred, realized that her husband saved Song Chu. Her sisters began to say that she was young and inexperienced, and when she tasted young Master Ye's sweetness, she would change her mind. Meanwhile, the hero thought that the master could not even block his attack, which showed his shortcomings. The butler suddenly ran over and shouted that Mr. Yi had arrived. As he had seen Mr. Yi, the head of the family and his wife were glad that the master had come, believing that this meant that he did not hold a grudge against them, and the family, the sons-in-law, being complacent, rejoiced at the arrival of Mr. Yi and considered Chun Chen to be a nonentity compared to him. At this time, the main character realized that Mr. Yi Shaohan had not actually arrived. The whole family rushed to the approaching car, thinking that it was Mr. Yi Shaohan. But it turned out that a completely different person arrived, who came to find out what was happening, since he only came to say hello. Mr. Xia, who did not understand the situation, expressed surprise at why everyone was so excited. With horror, the family realized that Mr. Xia had gotten out of the car that belonged to Mr. Yi Shaohan. The head of the family immediately asked the guy why he came in Mr. Yi Shaohan's car, and Su Xian thought that Chun Chen was right. Mr. Xia laughed, saying that Yi Shaohan's face was swollen like a pig, that's why he couldn't come. And once again, the main character was right, and he should have been believed when Chun Chun said that Mr. Yi would not come. Suddenly, the butler received a call from the head and received instructions to invite Mr. Xia to the old mansion, and as Head Song spends a lot of time in the old mansion of the Song family, and few people know anything about him, but he is the real head of the Song family. Su Xiang was only acting as the head of the family. Chong Chun immediately understood this. Now that Xiao is here, even the old man is worried, and it seems that helping his wife win cooperation with the Xia family is an absolutely must-have task. Xiao was glad that the head of Song wanted to see him, and he appreciated Chun Chen's appearance, and he liked the clothes very much, and he asked to be taken to. Each of the elder sons-in-law was angry because Chong Chun should not have led Mr. Xia, so as not to say too much to him, and this might anger him. Unexpectedly, Su Xiang only said to Chong Chun to go see Mr. Xia off and accompany him in the future. In fact, Mr. Ye's car is here, but he hasn't arrived, which means he wants to show that he holds a grudge against them, and the three. But for the sake of the future of the Song family, even if the chances are slim, it remains to be seen whether Chong Chun can get the cooperation. All the relatives were amazed at how lucky the main character was. Sometime later, events continued at the Song family's old mansion, and the elder was when he heard that Mr. Xia of Yangqing had suddenly appeared, he decided to immediately invite him to his mansion, and it was the current head of the Song family, Song Chongqing. Mr. Xia also expressed gratitude to the elder for the invitation, and today is the Huang family's real holiday, and all around people. Pointing to the poster, the elder asked whether Mr. Xia writes often and whether he could help with this, and the guy agreed without hesitation, because he is well. Looking at the hieroglyphs, the young man realized that this word has enormous energy of blessed impulses, and it is truly powerful. In fact, the elder pointed out the mistake to the master, and it turned out that it was a different word. Namely, the word is unworthy, and the elderly elder tore the piece of paper right in front of the guy's face. Master Huang is now actively looking for young talented people throughout the city to present the Huang family in the best light. Countless calligraphy masters have submitted their works with great difficulty. But with the skill level of a great master, he is far from being able to compete with such masters. This is why Song Chongqing asked Mr. Xia for a favor that was not available to him. Namely, he asked to create a calligraphy work for the Huang family ceremony because it would help overcome the difficulties faced by his Song family. The old man begged and cried on his knees, but the guy asked him to calm down, and Song Chongqing insisted that if the god of the pin did not agree, then he would not. In fact, Mr. Xia exaggerated his abilities and was not as skilled in calligraphy as he claimed. The old man was glad of this agreement, because such an outstanding personality like him was not a. The guy, although aware that he was being used, still asked Mr. Xia to go first and enter Chun Chen's office so that he could. The wise old man agreed to fulfill the guy's request and invite the hero. As Song Chongqing left the office, he told Chong Chun that Mr. Xia was waiting for him in the office. Two guys, sitting nearby, were shocked that it was him they wanted to see. The joyful hero entered the office, where the gentleman was already waiting for him. A little alarmed, the guy said that he had just boasted to the old man, and now he needed to write to the location. Xia asked the hero to. The hero did not expect that Xia also knew how to do calligraphy and decided to express his admiration. Looking at the drawing, Chun Chen is simply shocked because he sees that this drawing does not look perfect. The worried guy looks at the painted poster and doesn't know what to say, although Xia asks him for his opinion. In any case, the hero still wants to offer his help and asks if it is possible to do it better, but he is told that Xia created this drawing. After all, Chun Chen is really good at drawing. After all, he studied with a teacher who was considered a true master of the pen. That great master had unsurpassed calligraphy skills, and no one could draw better than him. Joyful Xia hopes for his friend, realizing that his drawing is not as good as it could be from the hand of a real master of the pen. In fact, Xia took an interest in Chun Chen yesterday because he discovered that he was not that stupid. Xia really senses in him a potential great leader who is hiding his abilities and waiting for his moment. People with such a rare aura often have outstanding skills, and the claim that he could draw really surprised Xiao. Meanwhile, the hero completed his work and was ready to show his drawing. Xiao was simply amazed by the drawing he saw because he did not expect to encounter something like this at all. Confident that this was a truly terrible drawing, Xiao even believed that he could draw something better, and at this time, Song Chongqing knocked on the door, asking if Xiao had finished his work, as the guy, shaking with fear, knew that if the old man saw this work, he would lose face, and he should quickly create another pose. Suddenly, Chun Chun let his grandfather in, saying that Xia had already completed the work and the drawing was completely ready. The joyful man wanted to enjoy the young artist's creation, although Xia was not ready yet. But for some reason, fearing failure, Xia tried to hide Chun Chin's drawing in his other hand so as not to accidentally show it. Suddenly, Chun Chin raised Xia's right hand, revealing a drawing of the main character, which made Xia even more. Song Chongqing was extremely surprised by the drawing he saw, but did not show any. Frightened, the guy mused that Chun Chin had deliberately put him in a difficult position by showing the wrong hand, and now this was the end. He would lose his reputation. The elder continued to remain silent, only pointing his finger at the poster, expressing great surprise. Suddenly the old man ran to the poster, took it in his hands and began to cry, admiring that it was a beautiful creation. Surprised, Xia clearly did not expect such a reaction and could not understand why this drawing was considered outstanding, because he believed that even his was better. According to the master, this drawing is truly excellent, and Xia was too modest, and despite it rhymed with Wan and expressed the great ambitions and desires of Mr. Wan, and besides, it was written in. Song Chongqing happily added that Master Huang was very fond of ancient cursive writing, so he should really like this poster. In Xia's opinion, his calligraphy was still not as good as his own, but it had a chance of winning the competition. In the end, the guy calmed down and told Song Chongqing that it was just quick calligraphy and nothing special. Suddenly, the old man thanked Mr. Xia for this letter, but also noted that he forgot to sign it, and because of this, the old man wanted. The stunned guy did not show his displeasure, but he understood that the old man clearly wanted Xia to humiliate himself in front of him right now. Suddenly, Xia began to dodge, claiming that he could not sign the letter because a signature meant ownership, and why not give Chun Chen this opportunity? Continuing to make excuses, the guy stated that he sincerely wanted to give this letter to Chun Chen. The worried old man also begged the guy not to ruin the drawing, believing that Chun Chen did not have enough calligraphy skills. The hero, in turn, diligently signed the work, since it was he who previously wrote it. It was strange for the old man to see such a signature since the ages were the same but the skills were different, and he was sure that the calligraphy that Xia. At this moment, Mr. Xia invited Song Chongqing to finally start discussing cooperation, and the elder did not even. The old man really did not mind discussing matters with Xia, but Chun Chun should not have been present since it was none of his business, and he should have waited outside the doors. It turned out that old man Song had misunderstood, and Xia meant that he wanted to talk to Chun Chun, so he asked the elder to leave the office for a couple of minutes. The blushing old man felt great shame and did not even imagine that this would happen, and he would never have thought that Xia came specifically to Chun. The door opened and the elder stepped out, looking shocked. Song Sheung immediately asked his father how he was doing, and thought that Xia seemed to have not come to discuss cooperation. The trembling old man then explained that Mr. Xia was holding separate negotiations with Chong Chun, and even this news shocked all the relatives, and only Song Yin was happy about what she heard. Meanwhile, events unfolded in the office, and Xia thanked Chun Chun for helping him save his reputation, and yet, he was not going to give up the opportunity to cooperate so Xia decided to clarify the situation, and he stated that before his visit to the Song family, he had already looking into the master's eyes. The hero admitted that this was indeed. At the moment, Xia's team was at the Yi family's house, and he announced that if they did not receive a response before midnight, they would automatically enter into an agreement with the Yi family. This meant that the Song family only had a few minutes to convince him to cooperate. So if Chun Chen's answers are satisfactory, Xia will abandon the Yi family and choose the Song family to cooperate. But if Chun Chen's answers do not satisfy Xiao, then he will postpone the decision regarding the Song family. Meanwhile, the relatives were furious, not understanding why Xiao wanted to discuss such serious matters with Chun Chen. Since if an agreement is concluded, he cannot be kicked out of the family, and without concluding it, relatives risk facing Su Xiaoyan, the third young master without successful connections in Yinqing, understood that the choice of partners in the Xia family was not done at random, and this was not due to his idleness and frivolity in business. There were rumors that Mr. Xia was asking his partners the strangest questions, which no one had been able to answer correctly, all because of his pickiness towards his partners, which became the reason for Xia's failures in business. If the old and cunning gentlemen were allowed to negotiate, they would at least have a chance of success, but now with the rude and careless Chun Chen. At this time, Xia asked questions to Chun Chen, and the first question was, and if he deserves something big, will he? The smart hero replied that he would give the fame, fortune, etc. to someone else because it didn't matter. The second question was, if he was faced with a choice between power over the world and his beloved woman, what would he choose? Chun Chen said that he would choose power over the world and happiness with his beloved, and this answer was good, but in real life, is it so? The next question from Xia was about how to achieve both goals, success in business and love, and the guy was literally begging for an answer that otherwise, the conversation between them might end here. And even Chong Chun began to feel uneasy at such a statement as he was not clear on how to properly respond to it. At this time, Su Xiang's phone rang, causing him to be surprised. The excited man immediately picked up the phone, hoping to hear some good news. Yi Xiaohan called, wondering how the gentleman was doing today. Yi Xiaohan immediately assumed that Mr. Xia was now at their home, discussing cooperation with Chun Chun, and this turned out to be true, and then he told Su Xian he was going to formally sign an agreement with the Xia family soon. But Mr. Xia came to meet them so that the formalities would be complete. Not knowing what to do, the gentleman simply listened carefully to this news, feeling his anxiety increase. A little later, Yi Xiaohan hung up, and Su Xian tried to persuade him to resume the conversation, but the guy no longer wanted to communicate. Realizing the futility of the situation, the man said that everything is over, and it turns out that Xia has already made a deal. Assuming that marrying Song Yin to Yi Xiaohan would give them a chance to save the Song family, the father ordered one of the sons-in-law to prepare a new divorce agreement. All the events did not leave Song Yin indifferent, and she realized that this time her father's determination was really strong, and doubts began to. At this time, words were heard from the office about the successful completion of the entire process and the resolution of all issues. Meanwhile, Yi Xiaohan gloated, because he believed that the Song family was just a toy in his hands, so that in the future he could use their discipline. Soon after, representatives from the Xia family walked in, and Yi Xiaohan suggested that a cooperation agreement should now. One of the representatives announced that they had decided not to sign the agreement because Mr. Xia suddenly changed his mind. Mr. Xia explained that from his point of view, he did not receive an answer to his questions, but Chun Chun gave the perfect answer to Mr. Xia. The protagonist's answer completely satisfied Xia, and he exclaimed that this answer was simply brilliant, and now all his family. What is happening will again seem incredible, since nothing like this has ever happened in this family before. Su Xian decided to contact Mr. Xia and find out if this was true, and if he really chose to cooperate with. Laughing, Xia explained that this is absolutely true, and Chun Chen's answer is absolutely in line with his preferences. Let's return to the question that Xia raised, and Chun Chun talked about how he would choose power over the world and sleep next to his beloved, and however, poking fun at this question, Chun Chun explained that in the public mind, people often use the fish and bear analogy to talk about choices in life. Suddenly standing up, the hero shouted that it was he who was striving to conquer the world, and if he did not have the opportunity to get both desires. Immediately, Chun Chun turned to Xia with a question whether he was really called the third young master in Yangqing without success, and the gentleman confirmed this fact. It was for this reason that the main character invited the guy to cooperate with him, promising him great success in business and the opportunity to become the first son of Tian. Public opinion often states that different things cannot be combined together, like fish and bear. However, Chun-Shin believes that only whale, fish, and bear are incompatible. Not understanding this answer, Xia asked for clarification as to why, arguing that there were other options. Pointing to the next poster, the hero only said that such transactions are simply illegal. Laughing even harder, Xia exclaimed that Chun-Shin has ambitions to conquer the world, but at the same time, Su Xieyang and his son-in-law were shocked by what they heard, and they couldn't believe that it was about the first son of Tianan, and were puzzled by how Chong-Chun decided to say something so arrogant. Now that they had agreed to cooperate, Xia immediately began to leave the premises so as not to slow down. Although this guy had unique taste, Chun-Chun prepared an answer that sounded perfect. After examining the divorce agreement, Su Xieyang realized that this was true, and the brothers-in-law in turn believed that once. But at that very moment, the head of the family tore up the divorce agreement and declared that Chun-Chun was right. Today's three-way deal between the families has been successfully completed, and now they will have to. While leaving the place, Su Xieyang also called his sons-in-law scoundrels, urging them to think about their actions. Meanwhile, events continued in Yi Xiaohong's house, and all the dishes were making sounds of clashes. The impudent man was furious, believing that they had decided to leave him a fool so that he could steal his cooperation. From today on, he was going to declare war on the Song family and take revenge for all of Chun-Chin's intrigues. Some time passed, and new events unfolded in the ancient estate of the Song family. Song Yin acted quickly, ending the conversation with her father and grandfather about cooperation with the Xia family, and now the dissatisfied relatives realized that this was just a deal, and they watched, ready to enjoy the guy's Suddenly, screams were heard from afar, and someone started calling Chun-Chun. It turned out that it was Old Man Song's second son and Su Xieyang's younger brother, demanding that Chun-Chun kneel down and apologize. The insolent relatives rejoiced, believing that retribution had come, and the second uncle had come to deal with the hero, known for his protection of his charges, and soon Chun-Chun would be. Song Yin defended the guy, explaining that they had already discussed yesterday's events with Chun-Chun, and she emphasized that the elder brother still sought revenge, and the hero not only offended Qingpeng, but all. The brave guy told his uncle that he was ready to fully accept any possible punishment, although he wanted to punish him quickly and was happy about it. The relatives again ran to the uncle and asked if he could not punish Chun-Chun even more, considering his deal with. The man admitted that his older brother and father had always disliked Chun-Chun, and besides, he abided by family rules, which required protecting the hero. Uncle also thought it was absurd that Chong-Chun could make a deal with the Xia family, and he was going to explain everything to his elder brother and father to find out what kind of punishment they had in mind. Su Xieyang and Song Chongqing confirmed that Chong-Chun was indeed able to reach an agreement with the Xia family. This answer shocked the relatives, who were thirsty for revenge, and they simply stood in bewilderment, not knowing how to react to this. In addition, Song Chongqing believed that Chong-Chun was a decent guy, and it was unlikely that he would start a fight. The relatives also realized that Chong-Chun was the family's son-in-law, and Song Qingpeng had no right to offend him because it was unfair. Now the two of them were being punished by being ordered to rewrite the family rules 10 times, and in the end, the guests were shocked by what they heard and did not understand how this could happen, and how the guy could change so much in just a few days. The two losers left. Their influence on Chun-Chun was now zero. Suddenly, the hero decided to turn to his beloved wife to tell her something. Taking Song Yan's hand, Chun-Chun decided to ask her opinion about Song Muyang. Such a question made Song Yin blush, and she curiously asked Chun Chun what he was interested in. The girl was amazed that Chun Chun took her hand, and on paper they were husband and wife, but in real life they even slept. Oblivious to the questions surrounding him, Chun Chun asked his wife if there had been any conflict. There were no direct conflicts, but since childhood, my uncle always considered his father to be his sworn enemy, so they did not get along very well. Now the hero realized that he seemed to be right. Chun is Song Siyang. Chun Chun noticed that his wife blushed sharply. The Song sisters also saw that Song Yan's head seemed to be smoking, as if something had happened. At Song Qingping's villa, where the relatives discussed revenge against Chong Chun, events continue. While the scoundrel who wrote the family rules was very dissatisfied with fatigue and sought extremely strong, suddenly, someone came up behind the guy and asked his brother not to worry. It turned out to be Song Qinghe, the third son of Song Muyang, and he said that he was well aware of the situation. Having joyfully met his brother, Song Qingpeng sought to find out what exactly he had achieved, and it turned out that his brother had joined the brother. As long as Master Zhang was around, the guy didn't dare to interfere, and now that he's gone, Chun Chun doesn't dare to challenge. Now they have to make their abuser feel bitterness, and they have a magical snake in the bag, ready to bite. At the Song family mansion, events related to Chong Chun and his project with the Xia family continued. He handed over all management work to Song Yin, although the girl doubted whether her husband fully understood his decision. Laughing, the guy explained to his wife that he agreed to cooperate to help her achieve success, but he was not very versed in business matters. Therefore, he completely trusts her and is ready to take on some of her responsibilities to make it easier for her. Song Yin, puzzled, realized that her husband mostly did only sewing and cleaning, and perhaps suddenly, as if something had changed, the guy abruptly stopped cleaning the room. I don't understand anything, the girl asked the hero, because perhaps her harsh words finally made him think. Taking a short break from cleaning and taking off his hat, the hero only noticed that he had to do something very important. With a determined and ominous look, the guy shouted that he needed to go to the toilet. Watching the hero, Song Yin laughed, because such sudden movements were just because of going to the toilet, and it really, seeing the snake on the chandelier, the hero realized that he was right after all. Although it was only an ordinary spiritual snake crawling nearby. The enemies decided to send the spirit snake against him, the heir of the 9 profound inheritances, and it was truly amazing. After all, such a beautiful animal could not harm the most powerful in the area. Having used his magic on the snake, the guy immediately felt that this snake probably belonged to a dangerous group, and lately he had too many enemies. Suddenly, exclamations were heard from outside the door, saying that young Master Yi Shaohan came to. The guy quickly realized that it was probably the same guest, especially given his influence, and given his resources, it was likely that he had. And if there really was an attempt on the hero's life, then this would lead to the indignation of Chun Chun himself, and therefore Chun Chun decided to go. Meanwhile, Yi Shaohang and his uncle were discussing the 3-way cooperation they were going to establish. The excited father and mother listened attentively to this dialogue and were very alarmed by what was happening and what they heard. As it turned out, Mr. Yi deliberately revealed information about the 3-way cooperation directly to the and this was confirmed, and Yi Shaohan deliberately conveyed information about cooperation with his brother in front of Su Xian's eyes. And meanwhile, Chun Chun approached them and immediately decided to greet his guest. As if nothing had happened, the hero smiled and waved his hand, asking the guest how he spent the previous night and whether he had caught a cold. Recalling the past events, Yi Shaohan's breath caught in his throat, remembering how difficult it was for him at that moment. Suddenly, Yi Xiaoheng decides to go inside the building to discuss cooperation, and the uncle is surprised by this turn of events. As like so many cockroaches, they darted into the building, and the hero watched with pleasure, enjoying the spectacle and laughing. Since the villain decides to show up, his snake must return to its owner. All this time, Chun Chun carefully watches as the snake gets closer to the so-called enemy with every second. The relatives are unhappy with this course of events, believing that Mr. Yi Xiaoheng is really trying to support. The joyful guy decides to calm them down by announcing his cooperation agreement with Mr. Xia, and he emphasizes that this is a new level of deal. The angry sons-in-law begin to shout that the agreement with Xia is not forever, and that this family is only new here, so it cannot resist local power. At this point, the hero realizes that if this is the case, then let them have their fun. With a deft movement of his hand, the guy uses a magical technique, calling on the snake to attack the impudent guest. Suddenly, someone starts screaming loudly, expressing severe pain. At this time, Song Qingpeng and his brother felt satisfaction, believing that they had caught prey on a hook, and a local resident was bitten by a snake. The villains even recorded the guy on his phone, groaning in pain, with the intention of quickly posting the video on the internet. While recording the events on their phone, the villains discovered something that greatly surprised them. Mr. Yi Xiaohan appeared in the frame and was bitten from behind by a snake. During the filming, it was clearly visible that one of the relatives of an influential family was suffering. No one could have foreseen such a turn of events, and Song Qinghe was aware of his guilt, although the snake should have attacked Chong Chen. The head of the Song family also chimed in, calling for an ambulance because of this guy's snake bite. Shaking with fear, those around him realized that Song Qinghe's brother had made a mistake and urgently needed to find an antidote, otherwise he would be in mortal danger. Looking at these embarrassed people, Chun Chun immediately guessed that one of them had such power. It turned out that it was indeed Song Qinghe, in whom the power of the snake manifested itself, and the hero puzzledly confused him with Mr. Yi Xiaohang. Mr. Yi Xiaohang was in serious trouble, and the situation was so critical that no one could wait for help to arrive, and everyone present hoped that one of them could provide emergency assistance. To everyone's surprise, the hero pulled out someone's shoe and began filling it with water, reassuring them that everything would go well as he was going to help. No one around him could understand why Chun Chun needed Mr. Ye's shoe. In reality, everything turned out to be quite simple, and the guy just decided to help his opponent. Using a dirty shoe, the guy decided to pour water into it to help Yi Xiaohan come to his senses. Song Yin immediately ran to her husband to find out what was happening, because she saw how bravely he was trying to save his enemy. But everyone around assumed that the guy was simply taking revenge on his enemy, and therefore, suddenly, at this moment, Yi Xiaohan began to cough and gradually came to his senses. The guy did not understand what happened to his face, because it smelled strongly, and it was not clear to him how he was saved. Then he was told that Chun Chun took off his shoe, filled it with water, and poured it on his face, which helped in this situation. Having no idea why the guy helped him, Mr. Yi suddenly noticed that the guy took his shoe. Because the guy had a fungus on his feet, Mr. Yi felt disgusted, and it was quite unpleasant. Once again starting to foam and ooze, an ambulance arrived for Mr. ready to take him to the hospital for emergency. The lady was aware that although Chong Chun saved Yi Xiaohan, he did it in some incomprehensible. The best thing to do would be to stay at home during this time, and as soon as he leaves the house, trouble may begin. Thinking quickly, the hero decided to call Mr. Xia to find out if he was at the Tianhao bar, since he was planning to head there right now. The irritated wife could not understand why her husband was going there, and the guy only replied that he needed to be there. Soon after, the guy calmed his worried wife by telling her about the signed agreement with Mr. Xia, which he should not have missed. Even the younger brother reassured his sister, assuring that he would protect her husband, and the girl at that time realized that Chun-Chun. Just a few minutes later, the brother and the hero set off on a long journey to meet Mr. Xia. The girl clearly felt discomfort as with every step Chun-Chun and Song Chio became more and more unpredictable. At this time, events developed in the hospital. The gentleman screamed in pain, but the doctors could not identify the cause of his suffering, and all possible examinations were carried out. Suddenly, another villain heard a familiar voice in the ward. The scoundrel immediately recognized Mr. Yi Xiaohan and wanted to find out why he was here. The smug guy said that all the troubles were because of Chun-Chun, and he should be found and punished, since he wanted the hero to suffer. Picking up the smell of old socks, Song Qingpeng was surprised and assumed that Chun-Chun had nothing to do with it. The guy continued to scream in pain while being examined by doctors. His friend assured Mr. Yi Xiaohan that there was no need to worry, as he was going to warn his guys to be on their guard, and as soon as Chun-Chun appeared, At this time, events developed in a bar where old friends gathered. The hero asked Bao Huang if he was afraid that his grandfather would find out that he was using the lion dance to earn money. As it turned out, several years ago the best masters paid attention to him, and he learned something from them, and his grandfather had a high opinion of him. Mr. Xia wished Bao Huang as much money as possible and decided to make a toast to seal their alliance. The girls also liked the master, and they asked him to teach them the art of dancing because they really wanted to see it. Laughing, the guy decided to demonstrate what he could boast of. Taking out a paper figurine, he asked the girls to name their date of birth. Stunned people did not want to reveal their date of birth, so that the guy could not control them in this way. Xia, in turn, realized that this was nonsense and sounded implausible. After all, it was unlikely that anyone would tell Bao Huang their date of birth according to their horoscope. The angry guy exclaimed that he would not tolerate such behavior because no one showed him respect. All this time, Mr. Xia understood that Bao Huang had decided to make fun of him in front of the girls, and after some time, the main character appeared and apologized to those present for the delay. Xia's comrades warmly welcomed their new acquaintance, because he was a friend about whom Mr. Xia constantly talked, and also Sun's son-in-law. The astute Bao Huang realized that Chun-Chun was nothing more than an ordinary person, and everyone was eagerly waiting for him, and that was why he asked. The mysterious hero looked at him and asked if he was really in for fun. Laughing at this suggestion, Chun-Chun shouted that Bao Huang was crazy and unbalanced. Since he has just appeared, and Bao Huang immediately asks his date of birth, although they don't even know each other, and also promises entertainment. No one expected such an answer, because everyone knew how strong Bao Huang was, and no one dared to talk to him like that. Mr. Xia was frightened by this development of events and realized that Chun-Chun was quarreling with an influential man, and the astute Xia decided to justify his friend by telling Bao Huang that his friend had just come, perhaps not quite understanding. Although their family was not as powerful as the Huang family, it was still the territory of the Huang family. As the saying goes, even a strong dragon would not dare to invade a snake's lair, and Xia sincerely hoped that he could. Suddenly, Chun-Chun came closer and asked Mr. Xia why he invited him so late in the evening, as if he wanted to. No one could understand why Chun-Chun behaved this way, because Bao Huang was a much more influential person, and Xia had irritated. Bao Huang realized that he would be condemned for humiliating this fool if he actually kneeled. In response, the sinister character proposed a duel, on the condition that when he began, Laughing, the hero asked the scoundrel what would happen if he could. Having attached an unknown scroll directly to Mr. Xia's back, the hero smiled again and said that if these words caused laughter among the audience, and the arrogant Bao Huang agreed to such conditions, because the show was supposed to be truly exciting. Mr. Xia continued to cry and told his companion that he knew that these mystical things existed. Moreover, Bao Huang learned from the best masters, and he would not boast if he did not have truly impressive strength. In any case, Chun-Shin realized that there was nothing special about this paper figurine, because all these toys, even after some time, Mr. Xia finally wrote down his date of birth on the figurine. Now young Xia had to stand still, waiting for the miracles of magic. The trembling guy was very worried, but the hero constantly reassured him. Bao Huang began to manipulate the other figure, tugging on its arm to force the guy to raise his left hand. Frightened, Xia stood motionless, anticipating that he would be controlled. Suddenly, the worried guy realized that he couldn't feel his body at all. It all seemed like some kind of joke, because he felt absolutely nothing. As it turned out, Bao Huang admitted that it was just a warm-up, and the next magic trick should work. Now the scoundrel decided to raise his right hand, but it also remained motionless, and Xia again felt nothing, as if Bao Huang, the guy involved again, tried to manipulate the paper figurine, trying to demonstrate his magical abilities and prove that he was even capable of. Chun-Chun mused that even his 6-year-old marks could help him overcome this spell. Thus, Mr. Bao Huang had to play the role of the magician, and this whole performance had to end. Huang was furious, not understanding what the guy was saying and not knowing why his magic. Mr. Xia again tried to justify his friend, claiming that Chun-Chun was just joking, but the hero asked to wait, because this man promised to kneel before him in case of failure and had to keep his word. Bao Huang's minions were furious, believing that it was impossible to bargain with their master. They even hoped to see Chun-Chun. Suddenly, Bao Huang asked everyone to wait and close their mouths. The angry gentleman asked Chun-Chun if he really considered himself worthy of Bao Huang kneeling before him. Without hesitation, Chun-Chun asked the cheeky guy again whether he would continue to chat or finally kneel down. In the blink of an eye, Bao Huang knelt down, declaring that he was a kind person. However, looking at the hero with an angry gaze, he added that Chun-Chun should know something else. Namely, that Bao Huang would never allow such humiliation. This episode amazed absolutely everyone present, because no one expected that the proud Bao Huang would bow before Chun-Chun. Taunting the impudent guy, the hero asked him to stand up, otherwise he might get pain in his knees. All this time, Mr. Xia could not understand why his comrade was acting like a supreme overlord. Suddenly, many strangers began to approach the group of young boys. Unknown men surrounded them, as if intending to take revenge for the hero's act. The scoundrel was furious and shouted that sweet revenge awaited Chun-Chan now, because death would be on. Xia was deeply worried, not knowing what to do in this situation. The caring friend even planned to distract the enemies so that Chun-Chan could escape. The hero, in turn, asked his friend why he should run away from here at all. The clever guy ran straight towards Bao Huang to calm him down, and he no longer dared to attack anyone in this room. The scoundrel pulled out many needles and realized that Chun-Chun was about to attack him, and he thought he could get close. In fact, this was not a problem for Chun-Chun, and he easily approached the main scoundrel. Hitting with all his might, he pressed him against the wall, realizing that this was now his enemy. Now Bao Huang didn't have a chance, and he was suffocating from his own anger and pain. The hero only laughed at this, saying that he was already close to the main villain. The brave guy wanted to find out from Bao Huang what he could do to him now. All the servants in the room realized that they were completely powerless, since their opponent was much stronger. Mr. Xia realized that Bao Huang had been practicing martial arts since childhood, but this impudent guy easily overpowered him and neutralized him. The henchman ran to the scoundrel's aid, declaring that Chun Chun had dared to raise his hand against Bao Huang, and they all needed to attack. Many guards suddenly attacked the hero, which was his goal. At this time, Mr. Xia tried to persuade his friend to leave, saying that it was time. Suddenly, someone ordered all the guards to stop. It was Bao Huang who realized that his men had to retreat and allow Chong Chen to leave. No one expected such a turn of events, since everyone considered Bao Huang one of the strongest warriors in the city. Looking at the scoundrel with arrogance, Chun Chan knew it was time to leave and told his friend that they were leaving this place. Even Mr. Xia was shocked by what was happening and thought that perhaps he had misunderstood something, and it was strange that Bao Huang decided to let Chun. His servants also could not understand why Bao Huang allowed this impudent guy to leave the building. The trembling villain ordered his servants to remain silent, realizing that he only now realized that his powers had disappeared. The alarmed scoundrel realized that Chun Chun also had his own skills, and his skill level was far superior to his own. Looking around and seeing a huge hole in the wall, the impudent man realized that all his attempts seemed pathetic in Chun Chen's eyes. Suddenly, one of the servants received a call from his friend. It turned out that he had accepted the good news, and a group of fighters from Rongdong had gathered outside the bar, apparently on Yi Shaohan's orders. Coming to his senses, Bao Huang only said that this was a waste of time. After all, in fact, he realized that he had unique knowledge and knew how the magical world works. Only the strong can dominate nature and change the world. Leaving the bar, one of the opponents was simply shocked by what he saw. All of Rongdong's servants were defeated and could no longer fight. Now Bao Huang realized that it seemed that he would have to attract the most powerful magicians to deal with Chun Chun, or it would be better not to enter into conflict with him at all. After going outside, Xia couldn't help but ask his friend what happened at the bar. Chun Chun, laughing, admitted that he himself did not understand how he could defeat such a large number of fighters, and it was dark, and it seemed that they had set themselves. After a difficult battle, the hero decided to go home to console his wife, and yet Xia still could not understand how Chun Chun was able. It turned out that the hero used only a few techniques that he learned at the age of 6, and, apparently, he even overdid it. Even Sun's younger brother believed that his son-in-law was hiding something from him. Events soon returned to the hospital, and Yi Shaohan was furious to learn that everyone who had been sent to beat. To the angry Yi Shaohan, it seemed that Mr. Xia had asked a higher power to intercede for his friend. At this time, the mother came to her son, saying that perhaps these were some of Mr. Xia's protective. But as soon as the scoundrel managed to touch the apple, his hand immediately became paralyzed, and when he touched someone else, he was also instantly paralyzed. Even Yi Shaohan's mother could not understand what was happening, and the guy was sure that Chun Chun had somehow interfered in what was happening. The next day, a post appeared on social media saying that Xiaobei of Yangqing had chosen his first partner, and that chosen one was a lover from the Song family, or rather, a person. Even Song Qingpeng read this news and immediately began to enjoy the moment, and he enjoyed learning such information about his opponent. At the same moment, Song Yin came out, realizing that some kind of absurdity had appeared in the news this morning. Also, Song Qingpeng could not foresee that after his sister, Chun Chun, used her luck, she would have a bad experience in a relationship, and it turned out that her chosen one was not. This news only made the hero smile, as he realized that it was just stupid gossip and his wife. In any case, there was no need to worry, because rumors are rarely deserved. A moment later, wild screams were heard nearby, as if someone was experiencing unimaginable pain. The girl could not understand what kind of piercing scream was heard, and they decided to check what was happening. As they came closer, they saw a rather eerie picture. Namely, the snake grabbed onto Song Qingpeng directly, and he screamed in pain. The wife began to think that her husband might have clairvoyant abilities, because he foresaw that the offender would receive deserved retribution. With a smile of joy, the guy asked his wife not to worry and not to look in that direction, so as not to make her dizzy. As for people, Chun Chun will gladly do it, because now it is his favorite activity. With full force, the hero struck directly at the snake, which was located not far from the enemy. The blow was really powerful, as the guy tried to get rid of the snake, using a deadly blow from the shadows. The relatives, stunned by what was happening, saw Song Qingpeng lying beaten on the floor, and no one could understand what had happened to him. His brother immediately wanted to call the security so that they could deal with the main character and neutralize him. In fact, they only slandered a good man, and before doing anything, it was worth understanding what happened. After all, the snake attacked their brother, and Chun Chun ended up risking his life without realizing what he did wrong. Seeing the snake, Brother Song Qinghe immediately realized that it was the same missing snake. While begging his brother to provide the antidote, Song Qingpeng screamed and trembled in pain, declaring that he could no longer bear it. The brother immediately ordered the guy to be taken into the house to help him. At this time, the girl could not understand why she should take Song Qingpeng to the house, because he should have been sent to the hospital, and perhaps there was some kind of miraculous medicine in her uncle's house, the hero thought. Sometime later, events unfolded in Song Muyang's villa. Song Qinghe literally cried over the loss of his snake, because he had been taming it for many years, and it was truly a rare snake that only listened to him. The uncle also decided to share the good news, as their elder brother Qinglong had won the favor of one of the Huang daughters, and now they urgently needed to meet the head of the Huang family. For the brothers, this was truly surprising, since the Huang family was one of the most influential in Chongqing, and at the next meeting with the Huang daughter, they could now consider her their bride. But Song Xiang still dreamed of contacting the Yi family, and yet their dreams might not come true, as they needed to get closer to the most powerful family in the city, gaining the support of the Huang family, and the uncle could become the head of this family. At this time, events were developing in the most influential family of Chongqing, namely, in the house of the Huang family. The head of the Huang family, Huang Jianghong, selected the calligraphy scrolls for the ceremony and believed that Bao Huang had the best handwriting. The joyful young man argued to his grandfather that he did not deserve praise, since he still had a lot to learn, and in fact, these hieroglyphs were created for him by masters, and participation in the competition turned out to be a significant test. Huang Jianghong also asked his grandson to put away the rest of the works because he didn't even want to look at the other calligraphies. Upon closer inspection of Bao Huang's works, he discovered a familiar name. It turned out that one of the scrolls was signed with the name of the Song family by Chun Chun. The interested person immediately wanted to study this scroll, thinking that he did not expect that this person could write, and his maximum was a little magic. Despite the careless signature, the guy was still intrigued and wanted to look at this shameful work. As soon as Bao Huang picked it up, he was amazed because he did not expect to see something like this. His grandfather immediately noticed the guy's reaction and also showed interest in this scroll. Seeing part of the calligraphy, the elderly man immediately asked whose calligraphy it was. Taking the scroll in his hands, Huang Jianghong realized that this was exactly what he needed in both form and content, and he really liked this work, and it was what he wanted to use at the ceremony. The grandson didn't like this at all, because his grandfather had previously claimed that it was his calligraphy that he wanted to use. The delighted grandfather only replied that now no, because this calligraphy fully conveys what he wanted to say, and his grandson still has to study and learn. Not wanting to listen to this, Bao Huang exclaimed that if his grandfather did not believe him, then let him look at this uneven signature below, and in the end, it was not he who wrote all these hieroglyphs, but they helped him. In any case, the elder realized that the most worthy are chosen for the ceremony, and it is not the personal qualities of a person that are important, but his abilities, and calligraphy is a profound art. Trembling with anger, the young man nevertheless admitted his mistake, although he intended to wait until the ceremony to bring Chun Chen out and tell the truth, and his disgrace would occur in front of the entire city. Sometime later, events unfolded in the hospital, and the mother told Yi Shaohan that no one in this city knew how to cure him, and he would have to wait a little. My father found the contacts of the best doctor in another city, and it was urgently necessary to transport him to another hospital. When the mother touched her son's hand, the hand became completely paralyzed again, and the boy believed that no doctor could help him, and he needed Chun Chun. Hearing this answer, the mother was shocked, thinking that the guy was trying to take revenge on Chun Chun, and she shouldn't worry about her son because yesterday she asked people to reveal his relationship with Xia, and she should just wait for the Xia family to get angry and interrupt agreement with the Song family. Experiencing severe pain, Yi Shaohan asked his mother to ask Chun Chun how to bring him back to his senses, because he might have information about the treatment of this disease. Suddenly realizing that the situation required immediate action, the mother realized that she needed to find the contacts of the main character. At this time, the hero received a call and asked him to give him a brief summary of the conversation, as he was going to a meeting with his wife. It was actually Yi Shaohang who called, and he wanted to ask Chun Chun if he knew how to neutralize the snake's venom. Realizing that his enemy was calling, the hero remembered how his people surrounded him in the Tianhao bar in the evening, and it was impossible to call after that and ask about salvation from the snake's poison. At the last moment, the scoundrel managed to say that Chun Chan would listen to him, and if he helped with the antidote, the guy promised to forget about all the grievances, and Rong Dong would no longer bother him. The hero had only one condition under which he could be persuaded, and his father-in-law, having missed the tripartite agreement, was not himself for days. Yi Shaohan understood what was going on and decided to resume cooperation with Song Siyang, and he swore to the hero that if cooperation did not resume, he would answer for it with his own head. This answer satisfied the hero, and the scoundrel decided to find out where to get the antidote, and Chun Chan said that, unfortunately, he did not know where to get it. Hearing this, Yi Shaohan and his mother became furious, believing that they were being teased and Chong Chun was ungrateful. Nevertheless, the hero wanted to help his enemy, saying that he needed to endure, and he said that he did not know where to get the antidote, but he knew who could know, and sent the guy a video. The recording captures the very scene where the snake attacks Song Qingpa. Yesterday, that guy suffered the same suffering as Yi Shaohan before, but Song Qingha did not take him to the hospital and instead, he brought him directly to his family's home, and soon Song Qingpeng recovered, which seemed extremely strange. Even if Mr. Yi Shaohang didn't believe it, he had the opportunity to call Song Qingpeng personally and find out the truth. For this guy, the events were a real shock, since Chun Chan believes that the Song brothers know how to get rid of the poison, and yet, when he was bitten by a snake, Song Qingha was nearby, saw everything that was happening, but for some reason did not offer his help. The sick son immediately asked his mother to call Song Qingpeng to make sure that Chong Chun was not lying. At this time, the hero was thinking about how interesting it would be to see how Song Qingpeng would get out of this situation. Meanwhile, other events were happening in the Song manor, and the man expressed his previous distrust of cooperation, but after considering Song Yan's project, he realized that he could increase his income. It turned out that it was the fourth uncle of the Xia family, Xia Yanhuan, who was talking about how within a year, their pharmaceutical company would gain a foothold in Chongqing, and for the Song family, this was truly an honor, and they intended to work hard to establish cooperation. While Xiaobei praised Song Yan's wife and talked about how they would achieve success together, Chong Chun defended his wife, forbidding him to even look in her direction. A few minutes later, Lord Xia called his grandfather, expressing his thoughts. It turned out that the grandfather was aware of the scandal with Chun Chun and was outraged by it, since such an incident could bring disgrace to the family company. Xia continued to make excuses, claiming that these were just stupid rumors and their company was just starting to come to its senses, but Grandpa didn't care whether it was true or not, and it was a dishonor for their family, and if he didn't stop this cooperation immediately, then he will have to return home. Unfortunately, after Grandpa spoke about the scandal, Xia Yanhuan explained that it seemed they would have to stop cooperating, and he apologized for it. Suddenly, Chunchen decided to pick up the phone from Xiaobei and talk to Grandpa Xia in person. The guy introduced himself to Grandfather Xia as his grandson's new lover and asked to discuss this situation in private. The hero understood that the grandfather was most worried about the possible loss of his reputation, but he assured that, on the contrary, they could preserve it. Thus, Chun Xin guaranteed that his company would enter the Chongqing market within 4 months, and if they succeeded, then he would be obliged to continue cooperation. This promise stunned the partners, as they could not even imagine that this was possible. Everyone realized that for other companies it would have taken 2 or 3 years, but 4 months is really the shortest time, and this will not only add points to his reputation, but will also dispel stupid rumors on their own. Grandfather was furious, realizing that son-in-law Song had revealed himself as an impudent and shameless braggart. Understanding the course of events, Xiaobei also realized that grandfather had pulled dust in everyone's eyes because he did not tolerate braggarts. Grandfather especially doesn't like it when boastful people express meaningless confidences in front of important people, and in his memory there were no young people who behaved like that. However, he decided to give the guy a chance. This surprised everyone in the room even more as no one expected Grandpa Xia to give Chunchen a chance. With a smile on his face, the hero only confirmed that everything had been decided, and the contract was successfully signed. Everyone expressed delight, claiming that Chun Chun is simply a master of negotiations, and in this matter he has no equal. Still, the partners were worried about the guy's promise. Although Grandpa calmed down, the deadline was only 4 months, and Xia Yanhuan wanted to make sure that they could meet it. The self-confident guy assured that they could be trusted, because all they needed was cooperation with the pharmaceutical company, and they would do it. Song Yin continued to monitor these guys and understood that Chun Chan might promise a lot, but from somewhere there was a feeling that he would definitely succeed. Sometime later, events unfolded in the hospital. The evil opponents were planning to visit Mr. Yi Xiaohang to discuss the possibility of new trilateral cooperation and strengthening the position of their family. They also expressed satisfaction because by using this alliance, they could easily defeat Chun Chin if they just had to wait a little longer. Not long later, the good-natured scoundrels came to visit Yi Xiaohan, greeting him. The dissatisfied mother immediately addressed them, ordering everyone to kneel down. No one could have foreseen such a development of events, and the scoundrels instantly knelt down, showing respect to Yi Xiaohan's mother. Embittered, Yi Xiaohang decided to ask Song Qingpeng why, if they could cure him of the poison. They did not say so right away. The guy, not understanding anything, asked why Mr. Yi was so interested in this, and where suddenly such questions came from. As a sign of confirmation, the guy decided to show a video of Song Qingpeng suffering from the bite of the same snake that Yi Xiaohang had earlier. After seeing this video, the scoundrels realized that their situation was getting worse, since Chun Qian had filmed this video, and it was unclear how it got to their comrade. The criminals claimed that they could eliminate the poison, but in reality they just wanted to mock Chun Chun and did not count on the snake biting Yi Xiaohan. The mother began to beat one after another, shouting that they were scoundrels who had harmed her son, and at the same time they hoped for a good relationship. Yi Xiaohang shouted with all his might, declaring that he would continue to cooperate with Song Xieyang, but no longer wished to have any relationship with these people. Realizing that this was the end, the villains only had to provide an antidote and then leave this place. Leaving the hospital, it became clear to them that Yi Xiaohan was finally breaking away from their family, and all this happened because of Chun Chun, who set up a snake against the guy. Suddenly, My uncle received a notification on his phone, and he was very happy. It turned out that the brother wrote that all the troubles with the fifth daughter of the Huang family had been settled, and tomorrow evening their father was inviting them to dinner to discuss all family issues. Father understood that in Chongqing the Huang family had the final say, and even if Yi Shaohan stopped communicating with them, it would not change the situation. Now they only need the support of the Huang family, and they plan to suppress Song Xiang's family, and in the evening they intend to take revenge on Chongqing until his death. Sometime later, events unfolded in the Song family mansion. One of the sons-in-law said that he had heard that Song Muyang's family and the Huang family were planning to become related tomorrow night. This event has caused concern among everyone, despite numerous rumors, and the three-way cooperation with Mr. Yi may go to the second uncle, and once the uncle contacts the Huang family, the father will immediately lose his status as the head of the family. Until now, the uncle believed that the father was to blame for the death of the aunt during childbirth, and enmity remained between them, hidden from others. Due to all the incidents in their family, the Song family was on the verge of complete destruction. Meanwhile, someone entered the room, saying that second uncle was meeting with the Huang family, but there was still no clarity regarding the wedding. The main character shared the news that his family was deeply worried about the uncertainty, but now they will not only keep their contracts with Xia. In addition, they will now continue their three-way cooperation with Yi Shaohang. One of the sons-in-law doubted this information, considering it absurd, since this man could not be trusted with reliable news. In fact, the main character's source of information was unusual, because how else could he have learned about the poisonous needles in the whip? Even the head of the family was interested in asking Chun Chen where he got this information from and how he previously learned about the poisons in the needles. Relatives were looking forward to the moment when the hero would finally tell where he got such secret information. The joyful guy demonstrated on his smartphone that the source of his news was a magic shell. They could confidently ask the magic shell any questions, and it would fulfill all their wishes. No one expected such an answer, and again there was a feeling that this was just child's play, impossible in reality. The hero also posted the magic shell in his stories for everyone to see. Relatives were furious, discussing the future of their family while he played games. Song Yin went to the office and was surprised to see everyone there. The irritated son-in-law was glad that the girl came because he wanted her to take her crazy husband, and he behaved inappropriately all day and claimed that his cooperation with Xia had not been broken. Having brought the documents, the wife confirmed that Chun Chun was telling the truth. Having seen the documents, everyone was shocked again, realizing that their inadequate son-in-law was right. Mr. Xia actually agreed to sign the agreement, but no one could understand how this was possible. The head of the family thought that Mr. Xia apparently didn't care at all about other people's opinions, because how could they sign an agreement amid such rumors? Dissatisfied relatives again began to express their outrage, claiming that the success was due to the intervention of Chun Chun, who argued that trilateral cooperation had been restored, but many rejected this idea with confidence. At this time, the phone of the head of the family rang, and he was not taken aback, immediately accepting the call. What he heard plunged him into real shock, because the events developed extremely unexpectedly. Yi Shaohan just called and said that he had lost respect for Song Muyang, offering to resume negotiations. Bewilderment and anxiety reigned among the relatives, each of whom was confused, not understanding how this could happen. Relatives ran up to Chun Chun, questioning him about how he managed to do this, doubting the effectiveness of his magic shell, and seeking advice. That evening, the magic shell praised by Chun Chun caused a sensation in the Song family, and the hero even earned several thousand thanks to it. The next day, the husband and wife were walking together, and Song Yin informed the hero that their agreement with the Xia family was now officially in effect. However, Xia insists that the company's office is in the Jintian High building, and the guy couldn't figure out what the problem was. In the end, it turned out that Jintian belongs to the Huang family, and when the uncle and the Huangs unite, all it takes is a hint to the uncle, and his family will instantly be kicked out of this building. In Chongqing, The source of all opportunities and resources is only the Jintian Center, and it is there that relatives will be able to realize their plans for success in just 4 months. Suddenly, Chun Chun hugged his wife, expressing surprise at her unexpected zeal for his benefit. The witty guy decided to calm her down, assuring her that he would definitely sort out the office in Jintian. Taking out his phone, he exclaimed that he needed to go somewhere. Not understanding, the wife expressed a desire to know what her husband was going to do, as if expecting another fight. In reality, the guy had no intention of getting involved in conflicts. After all, he respects the laws and intends to act exclusively within the law. A few hours later, the hero decided to take the initiative into his own hands and correct the current situation. Together they entered one of the buildings, following a well-thought-out plan. The younger brother of the family, although he did not feel fear, was also at a loss, not understanding why they came here. Doubts overcame the guy, and he began to ask Chun Chun how sure he was that this was a safe place for living beings to stay. If something happened, the brother could stay outside if he was filled with fear and anxiety of the unknown that could be hiding in this mysterious place. The timid young man reminded that he was Chun Chin's personal guard and had no right to leave him in such an incomprehensible situation. Suddenly, it became clear that there was absolutely no one around, adding to the mystery of what was happening. And soon a mysterious creature behind him ordered the young man to instantly leave this place and go further away, creating a mysterious and unexpected twist in the plot. In fright, the boy reacted with screams, because he assumed that there might be a demon next to him, and when faced with a surprise, he remembered his scheduled online lesson, which forced him to urgently leave. Chun Chin instantly realized that his brother was not so brave, adding drama and tension to the situation. Turning to the monster, the hero introduced him as a girl and asked for the opportunity to buy a calligraphy brush, introducing an element of expected unusualness into the plot. Taking off her mask, the girl revealed the secret, revealing that the store was currently closed, revealing a new element of intrigue. The final revelation is Huang Yu's Star Place's magic shop, adding even more mysticism and mystery to the events. The witty young man immediately turned his attention to Lin Fu, the talisman girl, and realized that she was connected with the mages of the star scattering. In complete bewilderment, the mysterious Huang Yununo only asked how he found out about the mages of the Star Placer, and in response the guy said that he had been familiar with this movement for a long time. It is no coincidence that he is the senior student of the chief mage of the star scattering, Luoyun. And since Huang Yununo belongs to the younger generation, she will have to honor Chun Chun as her senior mentor. Patting the girl on the head, he demonstrated his superiority in all skills. The offended girl could not tolerate such rudeness and resorted to magic, called Keep Your Pocket Wider. Having hit the guy, she began to ask him about his origin and how he dared to discredit her teacher's name. Until the guy apologizes, he will not be able to leave this place, she said firmly. While overcoming the pain, Chun Chin realized that he was in a difficult situation. But despite everything, he managed to hold the girl's hand, preventing her from trying to hit the main character. With ease, Chun Chun stopped the advancing girl and kindly asked what led her to such decisive actions. The guy was in complete despair because it was this suit that his wife had bought for him, and now the girl had damaged it, and he was afraid that his wife would think that he had gotten into a fight again, and it would be difficult for him to explain something. The next moment, Huang Yununo realized that this was no ordinary guy in front of her, as he easily grabbed her. If it weren't for Master Luoyun's promise to take care of the mages of the star scattering, he would probably already be demanding compensation for the torn suit. In any case, the hero sought compensation and was going to leave his phone number on paper. If Huang Yununo had any problems, she could call her new mentor. After saying goodbye to the girl and wishing her good night, the hero decided to leave, noting how impudent she was. In addition, the guy took brushes and cinnabar with him, making Huang Yununo even more indignant, and he not only humiliated her teacher, but also ruined her training talisman. Anger did not leave Huang Yununo. realizing that this impudent man had destroyed not only her mentor, but also decorated her training mascot. Looking at her talisman, the girl suddenly realized something important. That's right, despite several months of training, Wan Yununo could not decipher these mysterious inscriptions on her talisman. When the guy left his phone number, she finally managed to figure out the meaning of the notes. Full of joy, Wan Yununo ran to her grandfather, exclaiming that she had finally managed to crumble the secret of her talisman. Chun Chin, hearing the girl exclaim in front of her grandfather, realized that despite her rudeness as a mentor, he should have given her at least some kind of gift. Meanwhile, someone left the room, declaring that only a few months had passed, and Wan Yununo had already figured out the essence of the talisman. It turned out to be Huang Xian, who remarked that if the girl had such amazing abilities, then there was a chance that she could reach the ninth heaven. Surprised, Wan Yununo asked her grandfather why the ninth heaven was so important to them, and it turns out that all earthly talents originate from the ninth heaven, and the gates of this sacred place on earth go beyond the normal framework of their lives. There are 9 branches of the ninth heaven teaching, and many spend their entire lives studying just one of them. The teacher has already given the mages of the Star Placer the opportunity to understand one of the branches and even found their own school. Over the past 50 years, only 5 people from the Star Placer have been able to join the secrets of the ninth heaven. Then Huang Yununo realized that she was able to decipher the talisman thanks to the numbers written by this strange guy, and after a quick glance at him, she suggested that he might himself be a follower of the ninth heaven. Hearing this, the grandfather flared up with anger at his granddaughter, believing that this person had immediately deciphered the talisman by just looking at it, and he insisted that such people should be treated with respect as mentors. In reality, the guy didn't look like a mentor. His age was no more than 20 years old, and he even boasted that the head elder of their community was almost like his brother, after which he was kicked out of the girl's house. Still, Wan Yununo decided to continue her diligent training, confident that one day she would be able to surpass the skills of this impudent person. Meanwhile, events were going on in one of the houses, and Mr. Huang was invited to make himself at home. Huang decided to please the Song family and show up for their dinner. The 5th son of the head of the family was also happy to attend the dinner, convinced that the eldest son Song Qinglong should take care of his daughter. After all, my daughter Susiu was in constant need of a strong shoulder and love. The smart guy agreed with his father, believing that the girl really deserves love. Taking her hand, Song Qinglong stated that from the moment he saw her for the first time, he felt attracted to her, and apparently, she is the only one for him for life. Starting to cry, the guy sincerely swore to Suzhia that he would carefully take care of her for the rest of his life and would love every cell of his heart. Confused and happy, Shushu also began to show emotions, saying that this love was truly mutual. Taking Song Qinglong in her arms, Shoshu was filled with joy from this union and truly fell in love with her new lover. The relatives were glad that matters of the heart had been discussed, and everyone was ready to begin joint cooperation. The smart uncle approached Mr. Huang, telling him that their family was facing a little difficulty and he wanted to ask for help. For Wan, this was not a problem, because they were related. An uncle shared a story about his brother, who used various tricks and setups to maintain his position as head of the family. He stole the tripartite cooperation agreement from him and even managed to hurt his sons, and his uncle did not know how to confront him and had to suffer in silence. These words greatly affected Wan, realizing that his family was now in danger. Song Qinglong must take part in the development of the Jintian Center, but his brother's daughter also wants to get there, and they will not be allowed to place Qinglong there, and he will have to seek a compromise without knowing how to negotiate. Venting his anger with even greater intensity, Wan enraged the table with a powerful blow of his fist. He screamed, accusing the evil Song Siyang of insulting his new son-in-law, vowing that he would not allow this to happen. After all, Qingtian is not just a building, it is the property of the Huang family, and no one, including Song Siyang, has the right to be even on the threshold of this property. The satisfied uncle enjoyed his gloating, thanks to the matchmaker, who, fortunately, helped free Song Si-young from his enterprise in this building, sending him to Changchun. This entire conversation was overheard by Chun Chun, who realized that the old fox was again launching his dirty intrigues aimed at destroying the affairs of his wife. The hero, in turn, realized that he was dealing with an impudent person and thirsted for revenge. According to the guy, there was nothing fun to drink together anymore, so it was necessary to add a little magic. By embodying elements of magical technology, the hero began to use his unique abilities aimed at taking revenge on the scoundrel. Suddenly, a wave of magic hit Song Qinglong, and he instantly began to experience indescribable pain. No one understood what was happening to him, and even the guy himself froze, unable to utter a word. His lover, who was expecting a proposal from him, could not understand what was happening at that moment. Suddenly, Song Qinglong began dousing his beloved Xiuxiu with wine, pouring it directly onto her face.